Time of recording 11:03 a.m., June 5th, 2019. Again, in the fourth largest media market in the United States of America, the San Francisco Bay Area. This show opens tomorrow. It is a Marvel film. It is an X-Men film, and 24 tickets have sold. And it starts in just over 24 hours. This is the earliest possible time to see this film and the best possible time, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Don't think it's going to sell out. I don't think many people are going to watch this film. I think it's going to be a ginormous bomb.
Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome back to Nerdrotic. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from Nerdrotic.com. And it's official, Dark Phoenix is a flop, and this comes as a surprise to absolutely nobody who is a fan of superhero films. We could have seen this 100 miles away. I saw it, as you saw in the cold open in this, a couple of days ago when I saw that nobody was buying tickets for preview night, a night that's usually sold out or close to sold out for pretty much any Marvel film. Well, it turns out the producers knew they were squirting out a turd on this one, but they did it anyway. And it almost seems like they were trying to sabotage the Marvel Cinematic Universe's ability to adapt one of the greatest storylines in comic book history, the Dark Phoenix saga, which they are now going to have to push back a good couple decades. But now it looks like the real reason the movie failed is not ever going to be talked about, but I will talk about it later. But let's hear some of the excuses. Dark Phoenix bound to lose $100 million after worst domestic opening in X-Men series. Here's why. Dark Phoenix was not the X-Men movie that moviegoers were looking forward to. Critics showed that with the 22% Rotten Tomatoes score, which nobody really believes because they're a bunch of shills, even when they don't like a movie. While audiences demonstrate that both in exits, B- score, lowest ever for the franchise, and an awful 69% positive on post-track, and with their wallets only spending $33 million stateside, the lowest debut ever for a Fox/Marvel Mutants franchise. Even though Dark Phoenix is the number one winner around the globe with $140 million wasted dollars, down substantially from the worldwide launches of X-Men Days of Future Past, Logan, and X-Men Apocalypse. Finance experts tell us that the tale of Jean Grey will burn out with an estimated $100 to $120 million loss after ancillaries, off a combined production and P&A estimated cost of $350 million, which includes reshoots. Final global box office is projected at $300 million to $325 million, with one film finance suit telling us if it drops like a stone, $285 million. Don't forget it was a holiday in China, and even that is pretty low, $45.7 million. Well, there's the first excuse, a holiday in China, but that's not going to make much of a difference. But wait, there's more. There's a lot of finger pointing to go around here, much of it falling on Fox. And now we know why the critics feel so free to criticize this film, because it's still technically a Fox film. Not new gargantuan parent Disney. It was Fox in the end that orphaned the finale of this once prize franchise to the Disney merger. Well, they didn't treat it like a prize franchise. Dark Phoenix completed shooting literally 2 summers ago, well before the announcement of the merger in December 2017. However, following that, paranoia set in among Fox suits, and, well, that only created further pox on Dark Phoenix. Well, so now we hear a Chinese holiday and paranoia with Fox executives. Now, the article blathers on to give more excuses, blaming reshoots, although they didn't reshoot it to change the end from Captain Marvel. They said they had no intel. They talked about Simon Kinberg earning his wings because he came in and filled in for Bryan Singer a lot because Bryan Singer went AWOL on the set. And Bryan Singer was the biggest problem with the X-Men franchise. They tried to bring Matthew Vaughn in twice, who would have fixed this thing and made it amazing. And he ended up getting driven out by Bryan Singer and Laura Schuler Donner. We can't forget that as well. And one of these days, we'll get a great superhero film directed by Matthew Vaughn. He's the one who directed Kingsman, by the way, and Layer Cake. He's a brilliant director. But the excuses get real thick. They blame the marketing. They blame the reshoots. They blame the time of year it came out. No, those are not the reasons. This film was doomed from the beginning with one thing: Let's see if they mention it in this article. We were wrong. Behind Fox's Dark Phoenix debacle. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter. Despite an effort to not reproduce the failures of Apocalypse, the studio's creative team had trouble selling the vision for a finale. When definite awareness of Rocketman is higher than an X-Men movie, you know you're in strange territory. Strange territory? You're in horrible territory. And this should be a sign of things to come with superhero films if the MCU continues going in this particular direction, making them disposable. Now, hopefully, you're catching on to what I think was the real reason this film failed, but let's go on. For almost 2 decades, Fox's X-Men series has been one of the biggest movie franchises in the world. The initial film X-Men, released in 2000, almost 20 years ago, we're a year shy of that, predated the dominance of the comic book movie genre, and the franchise has been a reliable player at the box office ever since, generating more than $5.7 billion worldwide theatrically. With Disney's $71.3 billion acquisition of most of 21st Century Fox's assets, a deal that officially closed in March, Dark Phoenix marked the end of the X-Men era at Fox, with a dismal $33 million stateside opening. It ends that era with a whimper, not a bang. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Well, it was inevitable the way they went about it. Dark Phoenix was, in many ways, supposed to be the ultimate X-Men movie. Yes, it was, and now it never will be, thanks to Fox, Marvel, and the current environment in Hollywood. The tentpole was seen as a course correction after X-Men Apocalypse, the 2017 critical and fan failure that grossed $200 million less than the much-praised Days of Future Past 2 years earlier. But a series of missteps by the studio, some prompted by outside forces, came together to cause the failure. From the outset, it seemed that Fox, led by Stacey Snider and Emma Watts, and producers Simon Kinberg and Hutch Parker, had learned the wrong lessons from the disappointing Apocalypse. Insiders tell Hollywood Reporter that in a series of post-mortem meetings on Apocalypse, which must have happened recently, execs came away thinking that the movie's failure had been due to an excessive amount of explosions and scale, not due to franchise fatigue generally. There was a misguided feeling that Apocalypse was an anomaly, that we just got it wrong, says one Fox insider familiar to those meetings. We were wrong. So, they knew they were pumping out a turd. Audience fatigue and erosion have hit even the most venerable franchises, hence the proliferation of reboots, reimaginings, and even grander cinematic universe ambitions. It's a real head-scratcher on how you keep coming back. It's really not, but it must be for Hollywood, noting that even James Bond and Star Wars have had its ups and downs. Some franchises, like the Fast and the Furious, have reinvented themselves with new concepts and a new cast. Others, such as Die Hard and Terminator, keep underperforming critically, if not commercially, no matter how persistently producers bring them back. And it's obvious with those two, it's because they were driven by Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger. How many times do we got to say that? It's not a franchise, it's an action film built around a star. I digress. And the article goes on to make the same excuses as the previous article. Reshoots, timing of release, none of that mattered. This was DOA, and nobody was really interested anywhere in fandom that I could see. People didn't even know this film was coming out. I think even Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers mentioned that, and it really snuck up on me as well. And as you saw in the cold open, on the Thursday premiere night, which is usually pretty close to sold out for any Marvel film, including Venom, this one had sold 24 tickets. Why? Because they even briefly mentioned this in one of the articles, but they mention going with the same cast from Apocalypse, the current environment in Hollywood. They wanted to capitalize on a female lead, a powerful female lead. What is more powerful than the Dark Phoenix saga? One of the best female-led stories in comic book history, if not the best. So they wanted to jump on it without actually telling us a story, without even considering the fact that it took 5 years and multiple comics to tell the story properly in its source material. This isn't a story that can be told in film. The only way it can be told is maybe a television series, because comic books are serialized storytelling made for television if they're going to work at all. Of course, I will always say go to the source material. It is superior, but what it also needs is an actress with range, an actress who can handle playing a nice, sweet character and a dark, evil character. And Sophie Turner was not the person for this role, but they went ahead with it anyway. And it really wasn't her fault. Of course, I would say yes to anybody offering me a role like this. You can't blame her. You blame the people who didn't give her the best chance to succeed. They rushed out on this to capitalize on all the whammon power that's going on in Hollywood right now. And that's who you blame for destroying again one of the best storylines in comic books when it's being adapted to film. A place it doesn't belong. They did a great job in the animated series, and if they ever did an X-Men TV series live action, they could certainly tell this story maybe in season 4 or 5. Otherwise, just leave it alone. It felt hollow, and actually, The Last Stand did it better. Yes, Brett Ratner's film, written by Simon Kinberg, was better. But this is Hollywood. This is how they take the audience for granted. They really thought people would come in and watch this. And I love how Jeff from World Class Bullshitters put it today. People giving it a pity watch. I will give you full credit for that term. That was brilliant. And that's pretty much the reason I went. And just to finish out the X-Men. And this is the way they finish out 20 years of, well, not so great storytelling. It did have moments of brilliance, though, and I remember Wizard magazine back in the day calling X2 the greatest superhero film ever made, which I denied back then and deny now. But they also gave us Deadpool 1 and the inferior Deadpool 2, which was still pretty good, but nowhere near as good as the first one. Of course, The Great Logan and the Legion TV series, and Fox X-Men goes out with that. We still have that premiering in a couple weeks. If you have a chance to catch up on it, it truly is brilliant. It's one of the better things Fox has done with the X-Men, and I dare say Disney would not make anything close to this, just like they won't make anything close to Deadpool. So don't look forward to any greatness there. I don't look forward to what the MCU has to do with the X-Men, but I don't envy their position because Fox has kind of handed them a turd at this point, so we're not going to get any X-Men anytime soon. But the news broke today that Keanu Reeves is interested in playing Wolverine. The only answer to that is yes. Now, I think that would be great to bring him into the MCU, but I agree with Marvel. I think they should sit on the X-Men for a few years because I think there's just too much of a temptation to make it completely woke. That's why I would love to have a continuation of the 90s animated series, but not in the current environment. Please sit on the X-Men for a few years until this woke crap passes. Hopefully it will, and then bring us something good. So Dark Phoenix was an embarrassing flop for Fox, Marvel, and Disney. Why? Because they rushed it out. Why? Because they cast a lead actress based on the fact that she had red hair and she was in that popular show. They didn't even bother to see if she could do a good American accent. And coming second behind The Secret Life of Pets 2, that cannot be a good look. And this doesn't bode well for superhero films. This is a black eye for superhero films, and maybe there is some fatigue. That has to be something that's considered. Now that Endgame is over, I'm very curious to see how any superhero film performs. I imagine Spider-Man will do pretty well, but beyond that, I'm not sure. This movie should have never seen the light of day, like I said in my review. It's going to hurt Sophie Turner's career. It's going to hurt a lot of careers, and it is a black eye to the superhero film genre. We will talk about this more in one of my many live streams. I do 3 live streams a week. Please go to nerdrotic.com for my live stream schedule. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, hey, thanks for listening this long. Everybody have a great day, and may the free folks sing songs of your greatness.
Nerdrotic.com Please subscribe.